This conference will now be recorded.
All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. First off, we're going to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion.
Mary will second.
Mary will second it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Now we need to approve the minutes from the January 4th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Troy made a motion. Gail seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The railing, by the way, I assume that was you.
Okay, approve the accounts payable.
There we go. I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable for February.
Mary will second.
I think Mike is just trying to get in. Okay, motion and a second to pay the accounts payable for February. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Okay, we're gonna get into the campground discussion then. We opened up for, we're gonna.
Can I just say a couple things here first? So what we did was we went back to WHKS, Jesse Preston, and took in some of the considerations that were brought up at the last meeting and incorporated them into a new conceptual plan. And just kind of a reminder, this is just a conceptual plan. We can still change things here. And
What's
make them-
WHKS?
That's the city engineer. And so there's still time to, look at different options here for changing things. But that's kind of the last thing. It went from 19 spots down to 13 spots, still with a new bathhouse. And I guess they laid it over so you can kind of see the floodway and then the flood fringe on the map here too, so. Otherwise, that's all I have, Fred.
So did you confirm that this is not in the floodplain then?
So the flood fringe is the road actually. And then the floodway is that next line up.
But were you going to confirm with the state or some
And
other agency?
did you ever have that?
I didn't have the topographical map,
Oh.
but this is
It
what I had.
shows the same thing.
Right, this is what I had requested too, is like where the actual flood, and that makes sense if the elevation of the road is that edge.
So, but my question is, did you get
That's
confirmation?
the same thing that's on the map, Charlie. Is
So
what-
the
that's
city engineer
confirmation.
makes that determination?
No, he takes it off from a GIS map from the county too.
Okay.
That's where that information comes from.
So just an FYI, water has been above that flood edge. And we've got pictures that show that. So if you think you're going to escape water by moving the bathhouse up a little bit higher, I think you're still going to have, if it floods like it has in the past, who knows what might happen in the future, but there has been water up close to where that bathhouse is right now.
I think that's a good consideration is that the next rev, even though this is conceptual, I think the next revision, we should overlay a topographical state map right on top of this to find out where the elevation changes are, even above that road. Just as a safety precaution, I like that idea.
That was with the old bridge. The new bridge, as we were told, can't go through.
Well, we don't know what's going to happen in the future either. And the other thing
Right.
is, it could be that, there has been a lot of mitigation work done to try and keep the trees and things out of the river during those floods, but I'm just saying that water has gotten as high as where you have those campers are right now. So I don't think you're gonna be out of the clear in terms of moving it to a place that's gonna be dry completely. I think the other issue that I'd like to raise too is that you still have just one access point coming in and going out. So for the campers, there's just one way in and one way out.
You mean the main entrance there?
Yeah.
On the new map, it shows a second.
That's an emergency exit.
There's emergency exit back here.
Okay.
But it is that way now. I guess the point is, it's been that way all along.
One way in and one way out.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm just saying that, so I wasn't aware that you've actually added that access point there. So that helps.
So would that be for pedestrians or would that be for vehicles?
Yeah, it would be, as far as we talked, no, the second exit out,
Yes.
it would be gated off. And only if we would open it if we had to get campers out of there.
So it would have a vehicle access,
Emergency access.
that emergency access. Okay,
Connect to the.
all right.
But it wouldn't be a people can't freely come in there and out of there with cars.
Okay,
It would be controlled.
So you can't have any of those campers in the floodplain. You can't have the pads or the hookups or anything like that in the floodplain. It has to be above the floodplain. You can. So it's just the bathhouse that has to be above the floodplain. Is that what you said before?
The bathhouse, so talking with Jesse Preston, putting this plan together, everything can be moved where it's at there, and that would be okay as far as the DNR goes. The DNR,
Army Corps of Engineers,
we haven't talked to them.
I best, I would say you better. They're gonna have the final say. once you start talking about.
So what we're working through, John, is we're working with WHKS, and I'm just going off what they told us.
Oh, I understand, I understand.
And what he's telling us is, for all the applications go through the State Department of Health and the Minnesota Department of Natural
Yeah,
Resources.
well, I think Fred will remember that I was involved with a piece of property that had a creek this wide. And once the Army Corps of Engineers got involved,
So maybe you could just mention it, Jesse.
Well, and for everything that I've seen
You know,
in
just
the.
double check with them.
Yep, and I will, but everything I've seen through our application process, the Corps of Engineers hasn't even been included in any of those conversations, but we'll double check on that.
Definitely.
And I just, just another point, because we moved here in 91 or 90. And, that was before Kids Kingdom was put where it is today. I never thought that there'd be flooding in that area. And not only one flood, but a number of them. And so if you think you're going to be moving them to higher ground to escape the flooding, those campers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the bottom there, they're going to have their feet wet when they step out, if they're actually still there. That's going to be underwater.
And the ones above that will also.
Yeah.
Because we have pictures of it, we have pictures of the water up to the trail, the trail where people walk.
Yeah, close to the trail, and not over the trail, but close to it. So even the bathhouse, and that's just saying where we've had it in the past. And I understand that there's been, improvements made and we've had some mitigation done, but who knows what could happen? I'm concerned about my own property flooding, if we have a big one.
I think all valid concerns. I think those things can definitely be addressed and crossed off and checked off the list as they design future plans.
Yep. I think, as far as my input, and then I'll open it up to others, but I have had a chance to, before I got COVID, to talk to a number of other people. And I really tried to focus on people that live not in our neighborhood. I tried to focus on other people in the Zumbrota community about this. And not a lot of them knew about it, for one thing. So I want to mention that. I think it would be important as a board to maybe somehow get the word out to other people, not just the ones that live in this area, but other people in Zumbrota, because there was, and this is interesting, I saw, what you had for the minutes there where I'd suggested that, I have no problem with camping and having campers, but not just in Covered Bridge Park. I think I'm going to amend my statement tonight to say, there are a number of people, and I don't know how many, but I was surprised at the number of people that didn't want any campers in Covered Bridge Park. Any permanent campsites, any campers, because they want it to remain green space. They want it to remain a park, not a campground. So I'm sharing that input with you tonight. I think that by maybe increasing the visibility of this outside of our neighborhood, I know you sent the letters out to the neighbors, but we're pretty much unanimously against it. And I'm looking at the people around this room. But I was surprised at the number that were against a campground in Covered Bridge Park, period.
Well, do they know there's a campground there that's been there for many years?
They do, and some of them are uncomfortable with that.
But that'll never, they won't go away from that campground.
so are they gonna stay?
I'm just telling you what I hear. I'm just telling you that there is a significant number of people who don't want Covered Bridge Park turned into a campground.
And I go the other side too. I know a lot of people that have called and said, hey, I think this is a great idea.
So
We're gonna get that.
here's the thing that I would like to just express to the group to think about, is that we're talking about 13 total campsites, right? Because we're moving the 5 campsites that were in the current space to this area here, correct?
No,
We're adding 13.
we're adding 15.
So we're gonna keep the ones that are where they are now and then adding these 13.
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to confirm that too. But it seems to me, so we've got 18 total permanent campsites. I know for a fact that I've talked to more than 18 people in the Zumbrota community that don't want a campground at all in Covered Bridge Park. And I know that there's a lot of other people in the community that would rather see that space turned into, be a green space, be a park, and not a campground. So we're talking about 18 potential people that are going to benefit from this versus a lot more than 18 people in the Zumbrota community that will not benefit from having campers in Zumbrota Covered Bridge Park. So I want you to think about, are we sacrificing the needs of many for the wants of a few? And is it worth it? Because it's going to cost money. Is it worth it to sacrifice the needs of many for the wants of a few? And I know, Fred, you're talking, I know that there's people out there that really want to camp and would like to camp there, but do we want that as a community? And I guess, do we need to find out from other people, not just the neighbors, other people in Zumbrota? So.
Well, and it's not a matter of we want it, we already got it too. We already got it.
Some people don't want it. When did it start?
The camping.
Yeah.
That's been there.
How long's it been there, John?
35 years.
Well, that bathhouse I know was built in the 1960s.
So why did we do that? Why did we want it?
Well, I'm sure originally it was the sign.
Because I know that originally, talking to Wayne Radke today, the original plan was to have like a little village. And if you remember where the schoolhouse was over by Kids Kingdom and where the jail cell is there, the original plan was to have like a little village in there. And then we had the flood.
Yeah,
So-
and that stuff was put, the old depot was there, there was an old log cabin there.
Yeah.
But that, I would guess, was put in there from the people that knew that flooded over there anyway. It wasn't something, a surprise to them that it flooded over there.
Yeah. But I'm just saying
I'm
that-
sure when Kids Kingdom was even built there, they were aware that that was gonna flood over there.
I'm just wondering if there was a forum to talk about, and I guess it doesn't matter if it happened 35 years ago, it's what happens today. Do people want to have a campground in Covered Bridge Park? I think that's the big question. We obviously don't, but do people outside of our neighborhood, people in the community, not just Zumbrota, there's a lot of other people that enjoy that park and don't want to probably see campers there, permanent campsites. That's the feedback that I've gotten. So I'll open it up to Steve and others that.
Well, I just prepared a statement, and Charlie covered a lot of it, so I'm still going to read it.
So,
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. So my name's Steve Art, and I'm a resident, and I want to comment on your proposal for adding campsites to the park. Covered Bridge Park, it's truly unique. We have the covered bridge, which expands over the Zumbro River, and it goes, it's really unique. And it's a place that Zumbrota should be proud of. Place on the map, a place where people can enjoy the covered bridge and the Zumbro River. I enjoy walking the trails, all the open green space. It's peaceful, it's pleasant, and it really is. I feel that expanding the campground would destroy the charm and the peacefulness that we currently enjoy. I really do. I think it would turn the park into feeling like you're walking around a campground. I think that's something to consider because we have a lot of people that walk in that park and they're residents of Zumbrota. And do they feel like they want to walk around a campground or park? You have to ask yourself that. What do the people of Zumbrota want? You know, I see people walking there all the time. And I think if we took a poll into people that were walking through the park, what they would want, I think we could actually find out. So like Charlie said, ask yourself, do we want to sacrifice the wants of few for the needs of many? Do we really want to do that? So please, don't expand the campground. Right now, it's working for us, and it has worked for us. And really, it's the wants of a few over the needs of many. I mean, have we really gotten the people in Zumbrota notified? Do they know this might happen to their park? I know you sent out stuff for me and my other neighbors, and that's why I'm here. And I would be here if I lived on the far side of town, because I want a park. I don't want a campground. You have to ask yourself what you want and look into the future. What does the future want? We have campgrounds around here. People want to camp, they have places to go. They can come to Zumbrota and enjoy us as a destination. We have a covered bridge across the Zumbrota River. It's on the map in the state of Minnesota. Do we really want to turn this into a campground now? Really? Do we?
Well said, Steve. And again, I would like to amend my statement before. I think I have no problem with having a campground in Zumbrota, not in Covered Bridge Park. That's my primary focus. And it's because of the feedback that I've gotten from others about the green space in the park, wanting the park, not the campers.
So you would prefer to see the whole camp, the campers that are here totally gone also?
I would say there may be other sites in Zumbrota or in this Zumbrota area that may actually be even better, because I know they're not going to get their feet wet if we have a major flood. And you wouldn't have to worry about doing any work with the roads, revising the, spending a lot of money for maybe not a lot of return.
And what kicked this in is that we've had a waiting list for campers to come in, so we just thought.
Where are they from?
Huh?
Where are they from?
I don't know. What does that matter where they're from?
No,
I mean, the town growth isn't just for the people. I mean, we want to bring people in also that can come down and enjoy the towns, the trails and
absolutely.
everything.
I agree with you 100%, Fred. The issue is, do we want that in Covered Bridge Park? Do we want to displace green space and kind of a tranquil, restful, peaceful area into a campground? And I think that's where Steve Arndt was coming from too.
I have one more question. How much is it gonna cost? Where does the money come from? I guess that's two.
If we decide to do it, we're going to apply for $100,000 grant. Or what? You trying to tell me?
$100,000 grant?
How much is it?
And then how much is the total cost?
Probably 200.
Probably.
Well, 200. Okay, that's why we're going for 100,000 as a matching grant.
For the road and for the
For
pads
everything,
and the,
for everything. Well, the road that's going in the campground?
Yeah.
Because we're not changing any of the other roads.
So how about the
So
bathhouse? Is that in the
That's
200,000?
included.
okay. So 200,000 for all of this, and you're gonna ask for 100,000 grant. So 100,000 would have to come out of the park board budget or tax dollars. Okay. That seems to be kind of a pricey thing for not a lot of return, because you're only gonna get 1,300.
We would up it. So
How much would you up it then for revenue?
Probably $1,500.
Okay.
So if we fill them up, I mean, that,
So really, you're looking at this as being kind of a profit engine, profit maker.
I guess we're looking at it via income.
And
We
income.
hope it is a profit. But
Hopefully.
being that we have, the reason to kick it in is because we have a waiting list. We figure, well, we got 6 5 to 6 people on the waiting list, if we can get them in here and start earning $1,500 a month off of 6.
So how many people do you expect to be in camping? Are you talking 80% occupancy, 50% occupancy, based on your waiting list?
Based on what?
Your waiting list.
That's gonna be 100%.
I was gonna say 100%.
So you're figuring you're gonna have 100% occupancy at $1,500 per year. So that's what you're planning on, 100%?
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I think we're missing the big picture. The big picture is everything is getting more expensive. You don't make any money off the playground, don't make any money off the picnic area, don't make any money off the hockey rink, don't make any money off the soccer field. It's only the swimming pool with the maintenance and the upkeep and the places. That's just money on the drain. The only income that the park board gets is from the campground.
No, that's
Now, if you want to be somewhat self-sustaining, guaranteed income from the campers is the best way to go. The weekenders, that's, don't worry about that.
What I'm asking you though, could you get the revenue having the campground someplace else, or does it have to be in Covered Bridge Park?
Well, the big thing with where they're bringing it in at is the infrastructures there. Depending on where you would go, Charlie, if you had to bring infrastructure out to it, that's gonna cost a lot of money. We have to bring infrastructure to the campground, but it's close. I mean, we don't have to do blocks of getting a sewer line or something. So depending on what you're talking about, location of getting infrastructure to it, you know.
Have you investigated other options? Okay. So this is really about making money for the park board.
This is about expanding a current campground in the location it's currently at. It's not about trying to create a revenue stream for the park board. Because had we done that, this would be a brand new endeavor. This is just an expansion of an existing campground. And the same things that Steve had commented about the appeal of the park are the reasons why we probably have a waiting list. We haven't polled people. You're absolutely 100% correct that we should reach out to the campers themselves and ask them what makes, the Covered Bridge Park one of their primary destinations, why they want to be on a waiting list here versus somewhere else. And we should poll the rest of the public. Like, do you want, some of the park board funds to go towards expanding a campground, or would you rather leave it a green space? I think those are all valid concerns. And that's the reason for 3 different public meetings. So those are great inputs. Absolutely.
Well, it's
Totally
not just
agree.
me.
Yep.
I'm speaking from a lot of other people.
Absolutely.
And my biggest question is, why does it have to be in Covered Bridge Park? And you answer part of that by saying your infrastructure costs. But I would also say, for you to be prepared, are there other options to having this campground? And I would be investigating those options too.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're gonna be wasting consultant money, you're gonna be wasting park board money by going down this path, when it may turn out that there's not the interest, public interest, in having a campground in Covered Bridge Park. And I was surprised when I heard they don't want any campers in there. They want it to be a park. It's like Central Park in New York. This is our Central Park in Zumbrota. There's no campers in Central Park in New York. And that's for a reason. That's for a reason. We want the green space. And with the stress as high as it is these days, with all the things that people are going through, COVID, everything else, jobs, it's nice to be able to have a place that you can walk and not have to think about other people that don't have a true investment in this community. I mean, they pay $1,300, but if something bad happens, we talked about the fire risk last month. But there's also other risks too, because you don't know exactly who those people are that are coming in or their guests. And if I have a granddaughter or grandson, I don't want to have to worry about something happening because there's somebody that's got a $1,300, $1,500 investment for a year, can pack up their camper and take off. Yes, they're permanent campsites, but that doesn't mean they're invested in our community.
Well, what about somebody like my parents, who my dad's passing away? He wants to get a campsite, maybe come down here and spend some time with his grandkids
I have no
and
problem.
hang out and enjoy this beautiful park and the serenity versus going to one of these community campgrounds that are full of drunks and people that are partying and outrageous, when they can come down here and it can be peaceful and they can enjoy this beautiful park and our paths and cross that covered bridge and go to the library and do all these local things right here in our park. And it's already accessible. It's already a campground.
But
You know, he can't come down here and buy a $300,000 house to hang out with his grandkids, but he can spend $1,500 on a campsite.
But what
I understand it's
prevents
personal.
this- what
We're
prevents
gonna-
this campground?
The idea of these meetings where everybody give their input in, not to go back, we're gonna take all this input like we did last month, and we changed some things. We listened to your inputs. And that's what these meetings are for. So what I want this to be is give the park board your inputs, and we're not gonna go back and forth on this, you know? So just so that, you know, I don't want that directed at, or your comment, you know what I'm saying?
Nope, yep.
But this is we're gonna keep it comments, have your time to give the comments, and then we're gonna go with that.
I'm just saying, the needs of many, and I understand that it's a personal situation for you. We got the wants of a few. And so you guys are gonna have to make a decision on what's best for the city of Zumbrota.
But to answer your
Well, I don't want to, I'm just gonna take your comments in.
I don't know if I cut you guys off either. You're gonna say something.
Brandon, these letters were sent out here, was there any other place that this was put?
Yeah, we published it in the newspaper.
So it was published in the newspaper to have these meetings.
I'm just saying, I think it might be good to publish it again,
We publish it before every meeting.
And I think it's
It'll be published.
but about this topic.
Yes,
Right,
yes,
that's what it's
specific.
Specifically about the
To this.
topic.
Three
And then the next
months
one.
of this.
Essentially, the letters that you guys received in the mail is exactly what we published in the newspaper.
And that'll
go
We
out
just
next
took out the
month.
things that were more personal to you.
Because there was a number of people that said they didn't know about this, so,
Right, so if you don't read the paper.
and maybe they don't get the paper.
Right, well, it's in
Well,
the
it's in the
shopper,
shopper.
but,
Yeah.
but the same thing, I think Brandon does a good job of posting it on the website and stuff.
Well, trust me, I am spreading the news.
Right,
I'm
and
spreading
and
the
that's
word.
great,
So there may be more questions that come up, but,
but I think so to answer that question a little bit, I think we do, you know what, short of sending everybody in the community.
no, and I don't.
But I think we try to do as good of a job as getting it out there. Like I said, it goes in the paper. And I caught it in the shopper this month, that it goes every month that we have it for the notification. It was sent out. And like I said, I know Miranda does a good job of trying to get it. And you know, besides talking to people and seeing people,
So for the next meeting that comes up, what would you need from us to change your minds? Or aren't your minds gonna change? I mean, is this a done deal in Covered Bridge Park? And you're just asking for us to voice our concerns, and obviously the neighbors are concerned, we share that with you. But what would it take for you to say, yep, I think I've heard enough about people not wanting a campers in Covered Bridge Park? What would it take?
I like the idea that you had come up with, Charlie, about just a poll, a public poll to find out, you know, is it really, you know, the wants of a few
Right.
that are saying, yeah, I really want to go camping versus
So how can we do that?
right. I mean,
could
I
we
know
set
not
up a-
everybody is on social media,
Exactly.
and usually the ones that are on social media are more negative than positive, but we could certainly post something either on the website or on social media, because I know there's that thing out there that says, you know, give a poll where you can't even comment. It's just a for or against type kind of thing.
Yep.
And then I don't know if you can lock it down to just Zumbrota residents. I don't know how you do that.
Well, I don't know if you want it just some road either.
Road residents that are gonna go in the same town to camp.
For this, I would think we would want to because it's their money that's going towards it. So
And what I was
somebody
trying-
that's in the township,
That's
it's
true.
not their money that's going.
And I only
That's
suggested that because I don't think we want to have it lopsided where you have 100 people from out of town voting no, 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 and it's
Right.
just, you called your
Yeah,
friends and
I
Sheboygan.
guess I was just thinking there's other people that live around the area that use
Absolutely.
the
I
trail.
think it's only fair to the taxpayers to only have taxpayer
Correct.
input.
Okay, so if we had a social media, a website,
Yeah, I think I'll
a
probably
vote,
do some sort
yes
of
or
a
no?
Google Doc
Something.
form thing so that people that aren't on Facebook can maybe still access it via the website or
Okay.
something
And then
like
what
that.
would be the percentage?
Correct.
Because again, we're talking about,
Can you put it on their water bill?
Check a box, yes
then
or
they'll
no.
read it.
Well, maybe
Water
not.
bill-
That's up
water
to you.
bill's gotten our attention.
Right.
So anyway, so those are things to think about.
I like that idea. Well, isn't the whole idea of the park so that everybody can enjoy it, including people with a camper?
I think we have to decide whether or not we want the park to be a campground. Or do we want it to be a park?
My question on that, if you go for a poll on that, so if the majority of the people do not want a campground, you're saying then we get rid of what's out there?
I'm saying that, I know
I'm just
people,
seeing
I'm
where
saying that some people that I've talked to don't want to see campers in the park. So there's that. I would be happy, I would be satisfied, and I think everybody else that I've talked to, if it just stayed the same. So if you want to have a few campers in there, a few campsites, not move them, keep them right where they're at, I think then you're not going to have pushback. But just based on the people that I've talked to, and I've probably talked to 100 or more people,
Where are they?
and they've talked to people, well, some of them can't get off work to get here in time, so.
You can let them know that our door and our phones are pointing out.
I think that's where the social media thing is gonna be helpful, because then it breaks down all those barriers.
I
And
think
we
the
open it
poll
up.
should be strictly to the topic at hand.
Should the existing campground be expanded? And do you know where it's being expanded or at what level it's being expanded?
And the number of,
Right.
what it's gonna be expanded
Moving
to.
from X number of spaces to X number of spaces.
A question, Charlie, did any of that, when this was redone, does any of that look better?
No,
Not at all, okay.
it's the location. I mean, again,
You don't want to understand.
I don't want anything that could create a potential fire risk for us, for me in my backyard. And with all of those campers there, they're gonna have campfires quite regularly. It's not like a residential area that's gonna be back there. And you're not gonna be able to prevent the sparks from going over the fireworks. You know, it's just gonna, and that is it's a tinder. There's so much, the needles there underneath those pine trees. It's a risk. It's a risk for us in the neighborhood, like the water is the risk. You know, the water from flooding is a risk. And having people in there that I don't know, they probably are good people, but I don't know them, but they may invite some people that aren't so good. That's a risk.
We've had campers in there for many, many years. How many fires have they?
I'm just saying,
Right.
that's my concern. So it's the risk. And I brought that up last month too, but I was surprised at the number of people that I talked to that didn't want campers back there. It's a park, it's not a campground. That's their comment. And I think this survey will definitely help. And then you guys can focus on other things. Or, you know, go down this path, but I hope you don't.
And I'll reiterate again too, that if people can't come to meetings but would like to talk to any of us, they're
Yeah.
more than welcome to. Because our hours are 7 to 5:30
Yep.
during the week, so they're more than welcome to.
And maybe you could just keep a little tally as
Yes.
people
I
talk
would
to
rather
you.
people ask questions than make assumptions.
Exactly.
Okay, so something like this goes through,
How are you gonna regulate what type of camping takes place back there? Is it gonna be motorhomes and travel trailers?
It'll be the same as what's there, we're just expanding. It's not, nothing new, it's gonna be the same campers that are coming now.
How about,
But how about tents and things like this?
There's places for tents now.
Right.
how about
right.
golf carts and,
Well, golf carts are legal in town, so.
do we want a camper village in Governor Bridge Park? I mean, that's the question.
A lot of your.
It'll be interesting to find out.
Seasonal campers are snowbirds. Right now, they're down in Texas and Arizona. And
But
their
somebody
average-
could leave their
average-
camper over the winter
Their
too.
average age
I
is
don't
probably
recommend
about.
We don't know that.
There's too much
Their average age
riffraff
is
back there. Between 70 and 75. They go to bed after the news is over. They're not making noise, you know, I mean.
I know, that's the way it's been. And I know, understand you know these people and I know it's personal. My father was, needing a place to stay. I want him to have that availability too. But again, do we want it in Covered Bridge Park or is there another place that would be better suited for this? So all things for our community to discuss.
They're not gonna raise a lot of noise and stuff like this because they don't wanna lose their spot. That's their home for the summer.
I asked,
You know,
the police chief how many complaints they get a year from the campground and the residents.
Well, we've only got 5. Now we're talking,
No, there's 12.
but we have, how many on the weekend though?
you've got,
There's 12 down there, and most of the weekends it's full.
and like I said at the last meeting, I know that there was fireworks this summer and I should have called the police.
Yeah.
It did. We heard it.
Across the river.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. I saw it.
We have a neighbor that does it too.
Okay, so is
And,
there more, Bryce?
and how about a situation like this? I mean, how are you gonna do policing? Are you gonna put up any type of barrier to keep them out of our properties? This is the thing that I'm kind of concerned about. Because I bet 90% of the people coming in are gonna be great, but it's always that 10% to screw it up for everybody else.
And you have that possibility now.
That's what Donnie's for.
Even, you know what I'm saying?
With fewer people. I mean, I think that this is gonna add to the problems and add to the issues just because of the,
And if you're gonna have a nice setup like that, you're gonna have water and sewer in that too,
For these sites.
Yep.
Yeah, water, sewer,
Okay.
electricity.
then don't you think you were gonna keep that travel trailers, motorhomes only?
That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it'd be.
What are you thinking?
Oh, I thought like tents and
No,
stuff
no,
like this.
no.
No, there's gonna
Because
be a permanent area that doesn't have.
permanent sites, okay.
These are seasonal sites where they have the hookups.
and the water treatment facility is able to handle more, because I know that it definitely rears its ugly head every once in a while. I know it's probably more Mid-Am than anything, but anyway.
I'd like to tell you on that list that we have for permanents that want to come, the youngest is probably 60, or maybe in the 50s. That's all family, right? Otherwise, they're all older people.
I just know that you can't, you're not gonna do background checks on them, and you're not gonna do background checks on the guests that come in. So, again, my concern as a citizen that's a neighbor to where this is going is the potential for something bad to happen. And who's gonna be at risk? If a fire happens and it gets out of control, who's at risk?
I'm not gonna disagree with any of that, Charlie. I think the one point of, any of that potential is now, and that's not just for the campus, that's for anybody who drives back there. How do we regulate anybody that?
No, but they're not living there.
No, but that potential that you're talking about, a risk of, you don't know who they are, where they're coming from.
And I have-
I worry more about somebody brought it up, riffraff that goes back there and sits. I was back there this winter and there was a car parked in there after the campers are home. That's
It could be-
more of my concern of the illegal activities that go on back there. That's just, I just want to bring that up, that I think you've got more of a potential for other stuff, other worrying about those campers and who those people are, because you have that risk every day. You let somebody in it, that's an open park that
But
anybody.
you're not living where I live. And my point last month was, would you rather have a campground right in your backyard or a nice green space park? Really think about that. Would you rather have a campground and a parking lot?
I wasn't talking about that, I was just addressing the concern.
But you're implying that there's risk.
Well, there's risk any day that you drive out to the park, that's all I'm saying.
There's not the risk. I haven't felt the risk back there.
Who's driving in and out of the park?
No, but I tell you what, I see, because I'm right back there, I have called the police at least a half a dozen times for people that I know that could be potentially causing a problem. And they've gone out there.
From the campground.
Right behind our house. And cars that go down the path.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is
So-
that risk is every day you go out.
This is less visible to me because they're in their campers or the guests that are around and the fire risk. There's more risk to me from my perspective where I live right now than what's happening right now. I can kind of control what I see back there, but I can't control what I don't see inside the campers. And like you said, 90% are probably great.
It scares the hell
Like
out of
my
me to
dad.
let my grandchildren even go back there. I will not let them go back there. I can't even let them go on the road because we have a couple of guys there that like to see if they can hit 0 to 60 to the pool. And
So that's our concern.
We'll take that into consideration.
Thank
I just
you.
wanted to ask some questions. I should move over here because I'm talking to you guys' back.
Actually, if you want to sit up by the microphone so everybody can hear it, it helps. a lot.
Sit right
Where's
here.
the microphone?
Those here.
Okay.
That way everybody can.
And my
hear.
question, the first one would probably be to, I'm assuming you guys are at the campground now. I'm just curious, what kind of rules are there? I mean, when someone has a permanent spot, are they required to, I mean, are they limited to the number of people they can have at their site? What about, there's a statute that requires if you have a public campground like this, as far as garbage pickup, how is that handled? I guess I'm curious what the current rules are.
Well, there's a list of rules for the permanents that they get
Okay.
to when they
Okay,
pay the deposit down.
just for example, just list, tell me some of them,
Do you have them, Miranda? I don't have them.
They're not that important. I'm sure that, I know.
It's essentially, it's the camp rules,
Yeah.
whatever the rules are for Riverford Park. So like curfew is 10, quiet time is 10, so they're required to be, quiet at that time. I guess what else would you like to know?
Well, I'm curious about the garbage, because I read the statute like a month ago, and I'm like, okay, how often does the garbage pickup come?
Once a week.
Once a week.
And they all dump in the big dumpster.
Okay.
Yep.
And where's the big dumpster?
You said
I've never
right-
noticed it.
Right
Kind
as
of
you go
across
in.
from where the dump station is.
So where would the big dumpster be in your revised plan?
Probably,
Really go anywhere.
that's why I have to have two of them.
It's just whatever.
So
Roll up.
maybe think about add that, because we're going to get the smell.
No, I think the statute requires though, and how often do they come? They come once a week?
Yes.
And I'll have to look back at it, but I think it requires a pickup of 3 times a week, depending upon the number of campers you have. So I don't know. that's something to think about, or to look into.
So we get,
Pick up from the campsites.
No, from the main dumpster.
so, and the only thing I can go by is we get inspection every year from the Department of Health,
Yep.
and that's never been on the checklist for us. So it might depend on the number of
The number of
sites. too.
campsites. Right. And if I remember right, it was based on the number. So that's just something to think about.
Yep.
The other question I would have is, currently, the campground, the permanents that are there now, they leave in the winter. So what is the criteria for that? I mean, are these going to be campers that sit there all year round? Or are people going to have to leave at the end of the camping season?
I think I would lose.
I would take them out of there.
Because it's too much,
We would see what comes
Riff-raff,
back,
I mean.
just driving or walking through too.
there wouldn't be no windows left in them.
I think when this all got started, I think the word permanent got put in there.
Okay.
This is what we have seasonal. Seasonal is they come for the summer,
Okay,
they leave in the winter,
okay,
you know.
okay.
I think permanent probably scares some people because, yeah, they can have residents, but the park will be closed in winter. But I just wanted to explain that seasonal, usually they are out of there.
Okay. Because like I'm thinking of, we used to have a permanent, we had a permanent camper, but it stayed there all year round. I mean, we weren't there, we winterized it and we left,
Right.
but our camper still stayed there.
And that's what they do now, 4 seasonals are their seasonals.
Okay.
We don't want to
Okay.
leave them
What
out.
about snowmobiles are they gonna be allowed to go through there then?
They do now. The trail goes through there now.
So
They
this-
will be able to go through there after, if this thing goes through, and what about them hitting posts?
So they have that risk now, and we put cones over every hose. The pedestals that come up, we put cones over now. Because even if you mark them as to stay on the trail, there's a trail that doesn't run right through the middle of the campground. Those snowmobiles go all over. So that's a risk we do take now. But we also go out and mark every pedestal.
So if they hit a post that had water, you shut off the water, then I would assume.
Yep.
It'd be more just the damage of the post.
So this isn't something where people are going to be able to build their permanent decks
No.
onto their camper and that kind of thing?
No.
Okay. And the sewer and water you said is covered in the $100,000 grant or the 200,000?
Yeah.
So
And the other,
200,000, just to clarify, 200,000 for the road work and the pads and the
So,
sewer and the
I
water?
just want to clarify something on that. That there is a cost estimate that's put together by the engineers too. We don't know actually what that cost estimate is until bid date, until
Until
it's
when?
But you
until
have-
it's bid.
You have some
But-
estimate.
Sure we do. Sure
So
we do.
200,000 to do everything.
But
Road,
I just don't want anybody to hold us to what those numbers are, because we don't really know until actually the day of the bid letting them, what those numbers come out.
but you have an
That's
idea of what it is.
Sure.
So is it 200,000 or more than
That's what
200,000?
we've thrown together is $200,000. So that's what we're kind of going
But
at.
the road too.
But what road are you talking about?
The redoing the whole road through where the campers are going to be.
Well, yeah, to make that road. For the campsites.
So
Plus the
I
pads.
I just got a price on extending the sewer and water to the pads and that gravel road for 54,000 on that section.
I want to know just how much this with the
With the
extension.
Sewer and water, $54,000 for that road, those campsites. That was actually on the 19 campsites, the first time that I got from Schumacher's. That cost to go down now because we're to 13, but it was 54,000. You saw that quote I had. from
So what we would like to have is what your best estimate is. And if you're saying 200,000 for the whole thing.
We're
So
budgeting
$100,000.
$200,000. So that's a decision we would make after bidding out too. If this thing comes in way over 200,000, that's our decision.
Sure,
Hey, we're not
sure.
gonna do this.
Yeah. So 200,000, 100,000 grant, if you get the grant. If you don't get the grant, nothing's gonna happen.
Probably not.
That's park board, actually, it was park board decision, but I would say the funding wouldn't be there for it, correct?
So you're asking the taxpayers to foot 100,000.
With the grant, you mean?
No, with 100,000, you got 100,000 for the grant and 100,000 to make the 200,000.
And we would, yeah. But our 100,000 side of it, or the city's side of it, is there. There won't be.
But it's our tax dollars.
Right, but it wouldn't be any higher.
But you can make money back on it.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
This question is where the 100,000 come from. It would be from the park board budget.
which is our tax dollars. So that's why it's important to have other people in the Zumbrota community ask the question, do you want your tax dollars going towards a campground in Covered Ridge Park versus leaving it the same?
And again, I'll just say, I think we do our best to try to reach out. I mean, it's hard to get people to come to a meeting.
Sure.
You can't force them to come to a meeting. So, and there's a lot of people that, and I hear you talk to a lot of people. I don't know how to get them here, Charlie, you know.
And I don't think they need to. I think when we've got a solution, a good solution to
I
get.
want to put a plug in too, we have a YouTube channel, so.
Good, good.
Tune into that.
And if I could say, it'd be nice if we could have input in terms of how you write it. That would be great.
Oh, you're right, what?
What goes onto the social media site and just input to be able to review. Are you going to use the same letter?
Well,
The input?
Why would we need anything different?
Well,
You mean for the survey?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably just go off of, obviously make it survey friendly, whatever the
Sure.
wording was.
so if you wouldn't mind me taking a look at that before you submit it
Sure.
and offering any
You want
suggestions.
to give me your email before you go?
Sure.
But are we taking this survey to get a vote on this too, or with just input, I guess is what I'm.
Well, it's either yes or no. That's a vote to me. Do you want it or not?
Right, so that's what I'm saying. I mean, why do we just put some, what are we looking for? People to call in and say, yes, we want it, no, we don't want it, or
I
what?
want them to put their, on social media, yes or no in the survey.
Just to get the temperature of the community. To find out, do you have, 80% against or 80% for? Is it a 50-50 or, I think Charlie's point is if you put that out there, it says, would you like the existing campground expanded from 12 spots to 25 spots? Yes or no? Something along the lines of, do you want this or not? And then if you end up with 80% of the community going, absolutely not, we don't need it that big, then it's something for the park board to consider, like, wow, do we really need that?
And I'm not going to go down the path of saying, do you want a campground or not? I'm just telling you that was some of the feedback that I had. So.
Miranda,
Yeah.
this is Mary. I think when we're talking about doing this polling of the citizens of Zumbrota, we need to make sure that we're doing this so that it's fair and legal. So I think we need to have the city attorney weigh in on the best way to do this.
Sure.
That's a good suggestion.
Yep, that's great. I'll include
Matt?
And also in back there where this is gonna be, how much grading and stuff are you gonna be doing back there you gonna be leveling this off?
So to be honest with you, when Fred and I were approached by a gentleman who lives in town who's done campgrounds before, and we talked about this last time, Charlie, he looked at the spot up there and he says, you got a perfect spot for it. He says, you don't have to do much. Come in and peel the sod off and lay your rock. There's a little bit of filling on some of the lower ends there, but he said for not having to do much. And I think that's why when you look at the cost of, and I kind of looked at the cost of what Schumacher's threw out there for grading it and putting sewer and water in. I thought, geez, that sounded pretty reasonable, to be honest with you, because there isn't a lot that goes into it. The roads are, well, all you need is a 12-foot wide road, and I forget the pads. But anyway, that was part of the reason when you look at a spot like that, that it was just simple.
Economical.
Right.
But it concerns me a little bit that we're looking at this as, one of the reasons we're doing this is to make money to help support some of the other things, when in fact, it could be, and again, we have to make a decision as a community, do we want this?
And I just
in the
want to
park?
throw one other kicker in there. And this is just me, but when I look at doing that, and I think already now with some of the camping people back there, they do bring back into the community. And I think we as staff look at that, weigh in that a little heavily too. They do help the downtown businesses, they help the local gas stations, they help the local beer place in town or whatever.
That concerns me too.
And I don't think that we can dismiss that either. I think there is some benefits to that, and I've seen it in other small towns. Probably Lanesboro is one that comes to mind. They have community, a city campground, and I think some places thrive on that a little bit.
The question is it worth it?
Well, and that's exactly right, Charlie. That's but I think that's worth mentioning, and I think that's worth the discussion when it's brought up to the community, you know.
Well, and when you say that one of the reasons we're doing this is to be a moneymaker, well, we aren't doing, the main reason I looked at doing it was because there's a waiting list and people want to come to this park. You know, when you say
It's
we're
revenue.
doing it a moneymaker,
You
it's like,
mentioned revenue.
that wasn't even on my list of why we were doing it. I mean, we're not going to do it for free, so we got to charge. So we must as well charge to make some money.
The question is it worth not making any money to have a campground versus keeping the Cover Bridge Park pristine as a park?
Yeah, and that's what we have to weigh out. I mean, I think personally, we can have both, a pristine park like we've got with a campground.
I don't think you
That's my opinion.
can. You can't have Central Park in New York with a section that has campers in it. This is our Central Park here, for us in this community. This is our Central Park. That's my Central Park. And I wouldn't want to have campers in Central Park. You like camp in Central Park.
Their own issues.
But I mean, we're talking about the needs of many for the wants of a few.
And that's what that poll, I think, will end up showing. I appreciate that. That's a good point.
Okay. Anybody else got anything?
Did you finish?
Pardon?
Did you finish?
Yeah, I think I did. I really would be interested in, though, knowing what the rules are going to be at the campground. So if that's something that there's a public, I mean, wherever those rules are printed.
Do you want to leave your email?
Sure.
And, because I don't know if you were planning coming to the next meeting, but we can certainly get them to you. I mean,
No, I can come to the next, the next two. I would just be interested.
You still can email them to her.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna still do your email.
Okay, I'll leave it.
That'd be great.
Okay. Because we have been part of a permanent campground, it's been years, but I'm just interested in knowing because I know what issues have come up in the past on ones and things that worked well. So I'm just curious on what the rules
And
are.
that's kind of what I want to qualify or clarify too, is the permanent versus the seasonal.
Right.
Because it's a big difference.
Yes, oh yeah,
big difference.
absolutely.
Yeah, leaving them over the winter versus taking them off. Now, it would also be helpful to know, as you're my neighbor, but where do you and Dave stand on this? Are you for it or against it?
I mean, this is better. I have concerns. I'm glad to hear they're not permanent. To say that, I guess I wanted to get more information because I didn't have enough information until I came tonight. So I had questions.
That's good.
Then we wish more people would do that.
Right.
Come to get the.
Absolutely.
It's going to be hard to answer those questions in a
I'm
survey.
just concerned about the trespassing.
So are you for it or against it?
I don't know, is that something that they could do?
Being where my property is and open to that, I have no seclusion to that.
Yeah, it's hard.
I would prefer not to have it.
Anyway, we'll get more input later.
We'll get more on it. You guys can vote on the poll.
No, and I mean, I guess, yeah, we would prefer not to have it, but if it's going to be here, and I understand it's not my property, the city can do what they want. I understand, people wanting to camp. I get that. I just wanted some more information and,
And I think one other point is, I think just knowing Donnie and Judy and Neil and the people that are there and that they're bringing in, although I don't know the people that, I kind of don't think Donnie's bringing in riffraff to his camper, but anyway, the point is, it's not going to be a Shades of Sherwood camp. We don't have enough of the amenities to make it a big blowout. I mean, from a city standpoint, we want it to stay a quiet campground, And I think they've done One of my big concerns, I didn't want to know Shades of Right, and it's not,
I don't think anybody does.
no, and I don't, and it just is not enough room back there to have something like that to begin with. But there's enough room to just, or enough people with interest to justify adding on to it a little.
What is the distance between the sites?
I was gonna ask that too.
It's changed now.
And there's
so-
probably a fire code on that as well. I'm assuming you guys already took that into consideration.
This is designed by the city.
Okay.
Is it 60 feet that you said would be nice? So I think since
I got
they shrunk
that.
it down, I think they were able to gain more of that space in
Yeah,
between.
that was the original.
But I know last time it was like 50 or 60 feet, and I think.
What we gave them, the original one that we were looking at, it was 50 feet between the sites, and the depth of them were 60 to 75.
Yeah, that'll work. It's, I mean,
And again, this is conceptual, and I hope I made that clear even the last time, these are just conceptual plans. They're, we can change them yet and look at different options for them, so.
And we're not removing trees and.
No, that was.
The beauty of that, we just kind of put the pads in between the trees.
The gentleman that worked at it said you can work around whatever you want, so you can work around those trees.
And I just want to make a comment too, as the person that fields a lot of the phone calls that we get for the campground. Like I would say during the prime season time, not so much during the winter, but I take well over a dozen calls a week of people, inquiring about our campground. And the comments that I receive most often are that they like this campground because it's quiet. And a lot of the people are avid outdoors people, so they like that it's right there on the trail. And we have people that like to use the disc golf. So it's a lot of, so I'll just concur that it's not the riffraff that people are concerned about. It is a lot of people that like it because it's quiet.
I've been here, I've been here 9 years now, and I look at this from a point that I think this community and this park, what I would call it, needs a fresh coat of paint. That bathroom was built in 1960s. If you ever poke your head in there, it's icky, to say the least. I think we just need a little bit of I think as a community in the parks, we have to stay a little bit up with things and kind of try to make it, and I know change is hard for everybody. I don't see this as a huge change. I just see it's adding more campers. There's most definitely, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that Charlie mentioned that is out of our control now and will continue to be out of our control. But I think we just need to kind of give us a fresh coat of paint. That's what I call it.
It'll be interesting to see what other people think.
But also, I understand, it's quiet, we haven't had I can't say we haven't had problems, because we have. I mean, one person that was just arrested for whatever he was doing, he was camping. I mean, so we have had some issues, but to say, it's quiet, we haven't had any problems, great, that's pretty much true. I mean, we have had some issues, but we're adding 13 sites, so I'm not sure how quiet we still become. I don't know.
the seasonal sites will be up in your neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
The weekenders will be down by the riverside.
Mm-hmm.
The seasonal is a lot quieter than the weekenders. I don't think you're going to notice much difference. And to add what she was saying, one of the beauties of camping here is when I'm there, my grandkids, they like to ride their bikes on the trail.
Mm-hmm.
They like to go swimming, like to go around the playground. And it's a good family time together. It really is.
Yeah.
And I think just the fact that more people can enjoy the park is something we should keep in mind.
How about the people that might not want to go to the park because there's campers there? The flip side.
And I do just want to tip my hat off to the park board because they have done a lot of nice things this year. We added the cement pad down there. I think there's a lot more forward thinking moving now that we're trying to make it more, more user friendly to the public, in general. We're putting a bathroom up by the shelter up there. I think that's going to be a huge benefit. That shelter gets used all the time. So I just really want to tell the park board, I think they've done a really good job in forward thinking. And even the campground, I know everybody said it was short notice, but in reality, it was just last month that we had our first meeting on it. I mean, this is kind of from the ground up. It's not that we're trying to hide anything from anybody. It was from the ground up that last meeting. You know, we've talked early on, but to start kickoff meeting, that's generally how you go about doing that stuff, you know. So we do try to encourage public input and we appreciate it.
And this will be the camp poster all the time, monitoring everything. If you're gone, you find somebody to be there. So, yeah, so.
Yeah, because we've always taken it upon ourselves just to find someone to cover our spot, you know, so.
Yeah, I think you guys can, I mean, that has been a big positive effect.
We call you the sheriff.
So I gotta give 100% for that.
I agree. And I do appreciate all that you do on the board. I've been on boards before and I know how much work it is and I know it's a thankless job in a lot of cases, but how you're going about this and being able to communicate this broader than just the neighbors, I think is going to help you make your decision. So thank you again.
Thanks for coming in.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know Fred, but I don't know. Are you all on the park board? Okay,
And my name's Mike Olson.
okay,
Troy Ness,
Okay.
first year on the park board,
okay,
lifelong resident. I
Okay.
basically grew up in this
okay,
park.
all right,
Oh, good. Chris Horvath. I'm
Yep.
on the city council.
okay,
Oh, yeah.
okay, all right. Nice to meet all of you.
And the other part, I remember, on the left, up on the,
Oh, I'm Miranda. I work.
up on the screen there.
Kayla Gifford in the middle,
Up on the screen.
Yeah, and I live over in neighborhood too.
and Mike Schulte and Mary Goplin are all on the park board as well.
Okay, all right. Well, I appreciate your time. I'll leave my email.
If you want to put it right on
Sure.
here too.
You say you work at the city?
Yeah, I work for, that's here.
Okay. So you're not the person that does my water bill?
Yes, I am.
So be nice. You should remember me then. You should remember me.
She says she works.
You should
I show
remember
up
me.
every
I'm
day.
the one who had all the questions about my
Thanks,
bill.
Donnie. Thanks, Donnie.
Believe it or not, you're not the only
Oh,
one, so
good.
it's hard to pinpoint.
Oh, no,
I
we're
know
the ones
exactly
who
what
put
house
in
you're
there.
in though.
Oh,
Yeah,
you do?
yeah,
We're the
yeah.
ones who put the sprinkler system in. And I'm
That
like,
we should
what
run
is
down
up
through.
there?
Because you're on the corner
No.
from Mark.
Yeah, we are.
Yep, yep, yep.
We're across the street from
Third,
From- yep, yep,
yeah.
meeting.
Yeah,
That would be a
so-
good
Yeah, my
summary
son loves
before
your
we
Christmas
move
lights
on.
over here.
Oh,
So
that's
keep doing them,
Dave.
keep
That's
doing them.
Dave. I tell him every year, you do not need to keep.
Yeah, we live in Aqua Circle. We live next to Ellis Benson.
Oh,
We have the.
Gosh,
it's
we're like
brown-
neighbors.
It's brown now. We have
Okay.
the brown
Oh, yeah,
house.
that
The
was
big-
Marlene, John and Marlene.
Oh, are you in her house?
Yep. Yep.
Oh, okay, well, nice to meet you.
You
We're
too.
like neighbors.
Yes, yes.
Oh.
Yeah, you've done some big improvements on that.
Yes, we did. For the most part, I would say we're content now.
Well, I saw a fairly small house turned into a huge.
It grew quickly.
Well, for John and Marlene, that worked, that was good.
Yes, yes.
Permanent.
So there's not gonna be that.
Well,
During the summer?
we don't see anything because we have, we're covered by trees. But in the
In the
winter,
winter.
yeah, and I just keep looking out my window going,
And hopefully that'll help then knowing in the winter, you
Yes.
won't be seeing all that.
right, yes, that was a big
Good.
relief
Well, thanks
to
for
me.
coming, so we
Mhm.
get that all clarified up.
No, that was a big relief to me
Okay.
because we love camping. I mean, we
I
haven't
just
done it in years, but
Remember when they had.
probably because I can't sleep in a tent. Pardon?
Maybe you have to start, you can pull in one of these.
I've tried to get Dave to get the old tent out. Maybe we could just tent in the backyard, but he always says no.
Did you give me your slip with your email address?
I did, it was yellow. Or did,
I brought it over. So it's
Oh,
already just.
okay. all right. Oh,
No, that's good. That's a good thought. Put it on
I'm
that
still
side.
looking
On this side.
privacy.
No, that's a good idea.
Am I gonna have people?
How many of the acres that are currently like mowable or whatever we have right now? What is that?
Well, I guess I'll just be
right there? How
cold.
much green space would we think? So if the entire covered
All right.
park. that we
Nice to meet
mow,
all of you. Thank you. We'll
10
see you.
acres,
I should say I'll see you at
1 acre,
church,
We're losing 10%
but we've
of
been
our
watching it. We
free
gotta
green
get
space.
there.
We'll
Nice
we'll
meeting
see you
you too.
soon then.
Huh?
We'll see you soon.
Yes.
Okay.
Close the existing sites and move them up there
So that could easily be done.
would be one other consideration. Because then it's up out of the floodplain, we still have all our safety issues, and we don't lose that because we could gain that green space back that used to be campground. We just relocate the campground to us. It goes against everything.
And that's good.
Okay.
The only
All right, we're
problem-
gonna move on with this. I appreciate the input. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Neil.
You bet.
Thank you.
I got a little bit upset, sorry.
No, that was all good.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Neil.
Have a good day.
Thank you. What's that?
Priority.
We're all good. So we're at B, priority list.
Right, are we gonna discuss this anymore, or we're gonna just wait for next month and get more input, and then we'll go from there?
You have anything you want to comment on?
Yep,
I have a comment.
I'm just a little concerned about the poll thing. Can that get loaded? You know what I mean? I just don't want somebody to sit there and say, no, 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 no.
That's
no.
why I said we gotta keep it just to the local residents, and it's.
Right,
so
but the
you
local
can't
residents can do that too.
That's what I'm saying, so you can't vote more than once.
And I don't
right.
necessarily know if I want to keep it anonymous. I kind of feel like I want to require them to input their address, just so that I know for sure that they live within city limits.
Absolutely.
You get one vote per address.
So I'm not necessarily gonna be asked.
I like the input. We're here to make the decision.
Well, right, I guess it's up to you guys how you're gonna take it, but I do feel like it's a good idea to get a pulse.
That's fine, but I think we could talk to a lot of people. You've gotten phone calls in from people that think it's a great idea. So I'm just not, know if I'm a fan about this.
So I was kind of curious about something because my mother-in-law walks through Covered Bridge Park all the time. She uses the trails all the time. So I just texted her while this was going on because I'm like, does that bother you that the campground is there? Like, just throwing it out there. And she's like, nope, not at all. And I'm like, okay, I just was curious. Like, you know, my husband and I take our dogs there a lot too, and we walk our dogs, and like nothing bothers us when we're out there. So I was getting frustrated and biting my tongue over here. So just so you know, if you've seen some funny faces, that's what it was.
Well, and that's why I mentioned to Mary here, I said, we wouldn't even be considering this if we thought it was gonna be any danger to anybody out there, but we know the track record of our campground out here with the hosts that we have. We know 10 o'clocks are, and we've talked about this way before this, that it's not gonna be a shade to Sherwood, and I don't wanna say that in a bad way, but that's how many campers out there. We're gonna monitor this. The cops are gonna drive.
Sherwood can be that because it's not in the middle of a neighborhood.
Through the summer, quite often and stuff, so.
The truth of the matter is, it sits in the back of the park.
Right.
You don't, your park is from, pretty much from the campground that way.
That's why I want to clarify the permanent versus the seasonal, because that was their main concern.
Yep.
All winter, when the leaves are off, they're gonna look at all these campers and decks out there. It's like, I totally understand their thought on that. So that's why I just have a little reserve on, everything we do at this park, we should have probably went and got a poll on what we were doing with this bathroom here, just people want that, you know what I mean? We're.
Well, and I know that we're not in this to make money, but I think I would kind of like to compile some numbers to bring back for next month, just because it is profitable, and then that offers us options to do the cement pad, to expand the disc golf. And I didn't really want to say it because it sounds like they didn't really care too much about this, but I'll put on an EDA hat for a second, and it does bring unique visitors into the town. So they may not see it as a benefit to us, but it really does benefit the city as a whole.
They gotta remember this community a little bit too. And I know 13 campers, But you think of those people out there who are going to get gas and get, groceries and food and groceries.
And the people, I stopped out there in the middle of summer and talked to the campers and have asked them. I said, hey, I'm on the park board. What do you think? He said, oh, we just love it out here. It's just, you got to walk through the parks. It's peaceful out here and stuff. And that's people that we're going to attract. And I guess, and then one thing I want to clarify too, was brought up, like what sounds like kind of you're doing this to make money. It's like, well, we're not doing it to lose money, but it's not our priority. Our
Right.
priority is that people want to get out here.
Filling the need.
And
a wanted need.
another thing too, I think that would have been important to mention is that once these sites are in place, we're not really going to be losing money because the permanent sites, I believe you guys, it's your intention to have them metered, so they're paying their
Right.
own utilities.
That's part of that cost.
So essentially it's like,
And granted, we are losing some green space, but it'd be different if we didn't have any green space
correct.
out there. We have both. We have both green space for the people that want green space.
To be honest with you, the green space that we're talking up there, it's got a couple playground stuff up there. It doesn't get used.
Correct.
Your disc golf and everything else is this side of that campground. I mean, everything that's there is that side. I think it's a great thing. I think the community would thrive from this, and I think adding this might boost getting that good. I mean, if people think they got problems now, wait till they get that trail connected. You got that much more traffic coming through on that trail. I
Right.
mean, there's a lot bigger things, I think, out there than this 13 spots in a campground.
Correct.
But in all fairness, when, we probably didn't see a lot of people for it because when that letter went out and people read that and they're all thinking, well, there's no reason for me to go because this is a great thing. So you're going to get the people that are against it more than you are going to get to the, and then, so you're on a poll, you're going to get more of them that are going to respond than you are the ones that are for it. I personally think, because they
Well,
think
and
it's probably going
that's
to
why
happen.
I don't want it to be anonymous because I feel like people are more apt to be trolls about things and, throw a wrench in things, even if it's not truly how they feel. They're like, oh, this could really stir some things up, so I'm going to say no, or I'm going to say yes, whatever they.
Well, that's why a poll with the address, if done correctly, if
Yep.
you have
Well,
3,000 addresses
that's why
and you have
Charlie
100
wanted to be
that
so
say they're against it
involved
and
in
only
that.
50 people say they're for it, you can literally say the other 2,750 didn't respond.
Correct. That's why a poll of this substance is going to be
If you have
difficult.
no response and 50 are against it, because that's what he was saying, what percentage then are you?
So there was a percentage that when we talked about, now I heard about Charlie getting a petition going because he had it over at the library, wanted people to sign it. So there was a percentage that Brian was using too, but I think you're basing that off your population.
Correct. I would like to see, as far as percentages go, I would like to see if we can talk to Jesse and see the percentage of actual green space in our covered bridge park. Like, is that, if that's 20 acres, what is that small little percentage that we are literally proposing to lose if we put a road through there? Because to counter their objection that you're losing the green space and all that tranquility and stuff like that, we could counter with saying, we're going to relocate the existing campsite to a safer, higher elevation, which still goes against the number one thing that they're opposing, which is it's too close to their location. But we could take the 12 sites that are right next to the river, turn them into 13 seasonal sites that are safer, newer, and at the back of the park, and still gain all that green space back. And it would eliminate all the riffraff traffic that now goes back to that dead end right next to their home. Because ideally, if you look at this, you could stop and gate, just like Don was talking about. You could make that just campground access only. You don't get riffraff going back by your house anymore. So you wouldn't have people that drive back there in the middle of the
And
night and light off fireworks or
living
whatever.
back there, there's a lot of riffraff that's
Right.
there regardless.
Oh, yeah.
It might not be my backyard, but I have straight line sight right to the campground.
Again, trust me, living there for over 20 years with that many yards away from my house. I can tell you that
Yes.
that right there is, if there is any dangerous spot in the whole park, you know, Bryce was right, that is probably the worst spot in the whole park. No lights, no nothing
So,
back there, and that's where
and-
the riffraff
And the
hangs out.
police
So
do
again,
patrol back
with
there too.
Bryce's point on that, the thing when they bring that up, it's not the campers that are trespassing.
Correct, it's the
You
No,
public,
that's right.
right,
It's
so the public
looters
still
that
has
are just
access.
sitting back there loitering.
Or the kids that are
Or-
randomly running through yard to yard.
Yep.
Or it's the neighbors, right.
And if there are
Issues with certain seasonal campers, we don't have to keep them. We can cut them loose. We
That's
don't
even
have to
better
keep them.
control.
Well, like you said, Troy, the
'Cause
more
then we can
campers
pinpoint
we
who
get
they
back there,
are.
you get rid of the people just sitting back there.
Yeah, well, they won't be able to go through.
People who are trying to hide.
From the public eye, don't go where there's 20 campers around
Correct.
there all the time.
Correct.
So
So that's,
this would be an improvement to their safety.
so hence, when that campground's closed is when you get, I mean, that was this fall, when I was out taking pictures of the campground, when you got some people sitting back there that are.
Correct.
So can we like in the winter time, Mike, then put a gate down here to where people can't drive back there?
We certainly could. The thing of it is, when you get a little bit of an open winter, you're gonna, there's plenty of ways to drive around it,
Sure,
So
sure.
you can't control, I mean, you could try to discourage it,
You're right.
but, back in where the dump station is, there's gravel goes back there. I mean, if it's a little bit of, even now, I think the snow's melted enough, maybe I haven't been back there. Generally, they pile up a bunch of snow right there before you go back into the campground at the end of that parking lot. People, they clean that road off all the way back there in that parking lot by the pool. And they always pile the snow there. But the reality of it is, you could put a gate there, but if they wanted to, they're gonna, Sure.
Right. You can't hold everybody's hand, but you can do what you can do.
So-
Would it discourage it? Yeah.
So what do we want to do for the next meeting?
I think we should follow up on some of the issues that were there. I think we should definitely check into and ask about the.
I'm
You
gonna
want a
reach out to
number on all
Matt
this
right
green
away
space?
tomorrow
Yep.
and get that rolling.
And I think actually what I can do is I think I can just go on GIS.
I'm gonna reach out to him right away tomorrow because I'm not sure what his schedule looks like. Yeah.
Exactly.
Not the woods.
Nope.
And then I can take the green space of what this is and just
Correct.
give you a percentage.
I would just like to be able to counter his point by saying we're losing so much green space by saying currently everything, that's,
Well, I would even include
west of Main Street or 58.
I would even include the ball
Right,
field green
you could,
space.
yeah, everything here and just say,
Well,
without the campground right now, without that expansion, it's currently, 20 acres. To add this little spot here is like 1 acre. So you're losing X percentage.
well, and I'll put
all you-
Mike Schulte on the spot. I know that you're just a huge advocate for green space and you're all about that stuff. So what are your thoughts on this? You've been quiet.
I'll take the floor here. I got a few things to add to the conversation. First, it's important that we as a park board take a stance of a little unbiasedness. We have a viewpoint, a long view of our park, a sustainability and a stewardship of it, and a plan that we've discussed. It's great that we are committed to such things, and I think we all have a positive outlook for our park and a pride for it. And that includes improvements to a campground and the benefits of it and the thoughtfulness of producing something like that in our park. So when the community comes and reaches out to us and says, well, we don't want it, we shouldn't automatically call them, wrong or disagree. We should be open-minded and a stewardship to the community park that they're requesting. That said, we do have an authority to make decisions on the park, and that's my piece on the discussion tonight. And in forward progress of the discussion, I think that the poll would be a little more simplistic. And we were talking GIS, and we got survey 1, 2, 3. We can create a poll on a phone. We can set the link on Facebook, send it out to the community, and people can link it on their phone, click on it, take a poll. This is like a pothole thing, and then it gives their location if they agree. And then you could actually map out hot spots of disagreement or agreement with a yes or no campground.
I like that. Will you send that to me?
Yeah, it's in I can get that to you. Yep. Yeah, it's just a little web app that we can create, And then we could put it on our Facebook and say, hey, and it would be great if you could add your location, because then you didn't have to ask for addresses. And you
I
could
like it.
actually get the map of all the answers and see like, oh, there's a lot of no's here in the neighboring houses to the park, right? And of course you'd think that. So that would be like a simple door-to-door poll, or we could not do that on Facebook and we could go to door with a phone and just log a bunch of answers just to get the feeling. And then once we have this poll, I know it has to be legal, and I know that we have to have a lot of data to get a good conclusive thing, but we're just a park board and we're just trying to get a feeling. It's not like a legal binding thing, but we should at least weigh, if we have like 70% against the campground, we should at least weigh that in our thoughts. But and then to respond to Miranda's comment, I would love it if our direction, our viewpoint with the green space and our grants and everything included native species, included like you pour a cement pad, and for every cement pad you pour, you plant at least an equivalent area in native plants around that cement pad, so that you're supporting the environmental impact of our park and improving like the look of it and the, you know, the Minnesota goodness of our park within the green and within the trees and the flowers. So then you can have all the campground you want, but it's just surrounded by trees and tall grass, and that's supposed to be there. But I thought that the DNR and the outdoor grant, if you put that in the design, they kind of buy into that. They like that. So a little more push on the native species plantings and pollinator gardens, rain drain gardens that we can put right next to the camp pads. This is a floodplain, and I always run into that. It's like, well, we're gonna plant a bunch of trees there, they'll get washed out. But there's gotta be some kind of rooted species that we can find that likes to live there and can sustain the flood and come back from it. I hope, thanks for listening to me. I don't mean to throw a wrench in the conversation, just a little thoughts.
I like it. That's great feedback, Mike.
Well, and he got me thinking too.
I like the green space replacement thing. That's a great proactive plan.
Well, and he got me thinking too. I don't know if this would solve all problems, but I've been kind of thinking about this lately, and you know, the residents worrying about their privacy. Would we, and they keep talking about a barrier, would we consider like a row of arborvitae or just something that would create a visual barrier more so for those homes, so it felt a little more private?
It would solve that, and it would solve what Charlie's saying. A lot of people don't like to walk by there and see campers, but I think there's probably more people that don't care if
I don't
campers
think
are
the
there.
people on the walking path mind it so much, just because they know it's there.
No, people don't want to walk by.
I would.
Campground, it's the serenity of the actual park that he feels like now you're walking through a campground, where if we would have had a better map showing the existing campground, and you could literally offset the path where it is now and saying the campers that are there now are literally 70 feet off of the existing, so they'll still be 70 feet off of the existing. It'll just be the one on the north side instead of the river side.
Yep.
You know, and I still think the green space comment, if it gets to it, is definitely not going to win any people over that live out there. But my suggestion would still strongly be eliminate the existing campground and move it up to that spot there, eliminating the dead end of the park. So you're just relocating the 12 spots that are there and putting them up in a safer, higher location, and eliminating the through traffic that goes past the campground and open up that nice spot down below. Is there any cement or anything down there now? It's just crushed rock, right? So all of that could be turned back into nice, beautiful green space right off of the river. You could put your Frisbee golf down through there. I mean, and you'd still have the back tiny dead end cul-de-sac of the park become your campground. But anyway, those are all great positive comments.
And maybe go back to the 19 to then?
Well, maybe you just keep it 13 so that the numbers aren't extremely high. So to Mike's point, maybe it's just a new paint job. That's if the green space is all consuming and we think like we're losing so much space and we get negative feedback from the community and stuff. I am 100% in support of doubling the size of the campground and utilizing that space that has been, in my opinion, worthless for years and years and years, that's just been nothing but a riffraff hangout back there.
Right.
You know, pardon my blunt, but it's just been a pothead frisbee center for 20 years. So, I mean, to get rid of that and to turn it into a nice, professional looking campground with people that you can control and maintain, and it's almost like a gated community. Granted, I don't want riffraff moving in next door to me, but I have zero vote in whether or not somebody buys the house right next door across the street from me and they have 13 cars coming and going and all sorts of music, and I have zero control over that if the Olsons move in next door to me.
And that might happen. That might happen.
Right.
And I would say our neighborhood has problems regardless of
And I
a
wouldn't
campground.
disagree with Troy, but what I'm afraid is, the only way you're gonna make them happy is no camping, you know? And that's what he's telling us that everybody else is
Yep.
saying too, which I would find, I mean, I don't know how many people he's talked to. If it was 5 people and they all said they don't want camping, but.
He said 100.
He talked to 100 people?
Isn't that what he said there?
It could be, but it's extremely obvious they don't want it any closer to their homes. And he's right. I mean, he brings up a good point. Like, would you like that in your backyard? No, but I didn't buy a house next to a campground. You bought a house next to a campground.
And I think that's a
300
loaded,
yards away, it's now proposal 100 yards away.
I think it's a loaded question too,
It
because
is.
it's all about your personality and what your likes are and your dislikes. You know, what one person loves, the next person hates.
Yep.
So
I mean,
it's hard.
I wouldn't want a big rusty water tower in my backyard, but I bought a house with a water tower. So if you guys decide to put up a different water tower in my backyard, I can't do anything about it. That's where I bought my house. I think he bought a house next to a
I might
campground.
buy your place for an access to it.
So you're all in favor of doing a poll, then?
I think we should do a poll, and I agree with your concern, Fred, that you're probably gonna get 100% of the people who are against it are gonna vote. And you might only get 25% of the people who are for it to vote. But even if those numbers balance out, you can still go back and say, of the community, and I love Mike's point, if you can get a GPS and say, of the park residents, 90% were against it, or something. We get that. But the rest of the community, the rest of the taxpayers, all either don't have an opinion, or it was a 50-50 split. So of the 50 people that were living in the park said no, 50 people downtown all said yes. So
I think people have a different vision of how they see the community expanding in the future. Because some people, unique visitors may not be a priority for them, and they may, rather just develop the community for the ones that are amongst it. But you have to find a happy medium, because
Again, that goes back to, if people want status quo, that's what you get.
Yep.
I see it as being a benefit to the community. A big picture, benefit to the community. Even being 13 new campsites, I see it being a benefit to the downtown, to your McDonald's, to your Quick Trips, your grocery stores. But if you want status quo, we don't change a thing. We sit with a 60-plus year or 1960s bathroom that, we still have to do something with, unless we're going to get rid of camping altogether.
Right, maybe.
That's where I come to, where it's a decision of us, no matter what, either we have it or don't have it, or.
But their opinions are they're helping to decide if you want to do it in full, partial, or not at all. Because their opinions will help you kind of weigh where it goes from here.
correct. Mary, did you have something?
I did. I've got to sign off here soon, but with the poll, can we make the stipulation that if it's a non-response from your address, it's considered a positive response?
Ooh.
Sure, I love it.
like that, Mary.
Okay.
Yep, love it.
And we skew the data though for our minds. It would just kind of skew our minds a little bit, where no data might be a better representation. But yeah, it's a good way to get people to answer.
Or what we could say is, if you don't include your location, your vote isn't included.
That would
we wait.
make the percentages better.
Yep.
Then you get your statistics on inline. Can I just add, if we do our due diligence and we have posted rule books and we have campfire teaching sessions and rings and all those things that people are worried about, doesn't that make us look really good to the neighbors? Like, hey, we're trying to take care of things and we have posted rules that you can reference and we can create those things ahead of time or during this reconstruction?
Yeah, I'll sign up.
Yep. Bye, Mary. Didn't they used
Bye-bye.
to have an engraved big thing down at the back of the park, like right when you were about that, right where it split off? Is it still there?
Right there.
Right. I thought it was all engraved.
So the other thing goes back to the Department of Health has a lot of rules and regulations on campgrounds. And that goes back to your fire rings and all that stuff, you know, what do you have to have down there and supply for that.
Correct.
And I can get this from the Department of Health on those rules too.
Well, and I really don't like to see people unhappy. I don't like when people don't like what we're doing. I want everybody to be happy. So is there a way that we could, like, are there different types of fire pits you could look at?
So that goes back to Charlie. Charlie's not gonna be happy unless we're going.
I agree, but if you can take extra steps to put in the effort to satisfy people, I feel like it's not a
I think you
bad.
go to, I mean, you're gonna have a good fire pit, you're gonna have all that stuff.
And that's the thing with building brand new is they're not gonna be completely sunken or anything like, they're gonna be
Sure.
all brand new,
Sure.
made to form for, the fire that is gonna go in it.
Sure.
And Donnie does a great job down there when it is
Yeah.
dry, not to let people burn.
They
Yep.
They have good common sense there. The wind is blowing 200 miles an hour, they're not having any.
Yep. He regulates that pretty darn well. And, I've been on the fire department for 11 years and we haven't gone down there for a fire, knock on wood, for 11 years. And he does a great job.
If you're gonna end up with a fire down there, it's gonna be somebody.
Yeah.
Drug kids, cars burning.
Yeah, or a couple kids playing with matches in the woods. Yeah.
And that's the same thing with the fireworks. I have no doubt when Donnie says the fireworks didn't come from the campground, I believe him.
No, the fireworks are definitely,
Yeah.
the fireworks are definitely coming from a home. I can say that with 100% certainty.
And they said they had the pictures of the water being up there. I've talked to Rick Lohman many times, and he was worked here. And I said, you ever remember water being up in this area? And he says he never remember. So I'm not saying they don't have the pictures, don't get me wrong. But when he says if we're gonna you think you're gonna get away from the water, you're not. But we're gonna get away from the water probably once in 50 years up here versus once in 5 years. I mean, every 5 years down here.
And again, that's where the channel for that gets super down too.
Right.
Yep.
Your river's not coming out up on top of the new campground, it's backing up to that makes quite a difference too versus having the water rush down through it. I mean, that picked up campers, so that's more in your stream of your flow where the campers are now existing versus water just backing up to it.
Correct. That's why I think the true topographical map will show those elevations. Every ring is another, 10 feet or something. And you literally can say, and you can even shade it if you want to, and say literally everything, inside of these growth rings, is 10 feet lower than the lowest pad inside the proposed addition, So it would have to rise another 10 feet in order to get anywhere in the new campground. So everything you see shaded would be 10 feet underwater, type kind of thing, versus just a dotted line that flows down the road.
Another thing Neil was talking to me about there, where the future bathhouse is.
Yep.
If we keep these campsites down at the bottom.
Yep.
Pretty much everybody's gonna be walking through site one.
Correct.
And he's saying, why not put the bathhouse where one is and you can put another site right next to that road?
Sure.
That makes
It's only an access for emergencies, so yeah, you don't have to worry about it.
And then when I was sitting there looking at this, should we be having them come in this way and slant them sites the other way? So if we have to pull them out, they're going the right direction to the emergency road? Now if they have to all of a sudden get out of there, where are we taking them? All the way around?
Yeah, and if you reverse it, it makes it easier for your exit for when you're done for the weekend or whatever
Shoot right
anyway.
out.
Yeah. You just come in, you take the roundabout, and then you bring her back and then back up into your spot.
Because Donnie's gonna be here anyway, and they
Yeah.
can stay out in the road till they get checked in.
And to be honest with you, that's flat enough up in there. I mean, it's not like, I mean, they pulled out of there and kind of cut across a little bit.
Grass. Fence or hard barrier there in an emergency.
Yeah.
They could hang a left and take right off.
Right, but it's gonna be awful soft there, because time we tell them to get out, it's been raining for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Yep,
Just a thought,
yep.
but that's something that can be done.
That's a good point, is what would it look like if the fishbone went the other way?
Yeah, and then they can just go down the existing road to come in and back in then. But that's, that can all be, like you said, Mike, it's all preliminary, so just some thoughts to.
Did you guys on the computer understand that, those changes?
Is Colin here?
She's just
Okay. I didn't know if she got anything.
to flip-flop site 1 with the bathhouse. And then to have the campers, the sites curve the other, or slant the other way. So instead of this.
Less than, greater than?
That was never my strong suit.
So realistically, though, this poll doesn't have to be done by next meeting either, does it?
No, but.
Because that's gonna make, I kind of like that, would take some more input next month. And then when we make our decision, we'll, I don't think it's something we can rush, hurry up and get out in 4 weeks and get a good, I'd say give it some time, or do you think you want the poll by then?
The only thing is the grant.
Well, see, we have to move forward with the grant regardless. And I
So-
think that's fine. I think that's fine if we got, the bad thing is turning down grants.
Yeah.
If you turn it down, then trying to get back.
To get another one is a chore.
harder.
When is the grant expiration, or when's it due?
March.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I would say if we're gonna do the survey, to do it before.
They're pushing this to try to get to that.
Get to that point.
That was something that was, I wasn't aware of that either.
Okay,
So if that
yeah,
match
okay,
grant
yep.
is due before April 1st.
I mean, unless you want to push it out to next year again.
Yeah, because we had to have 3 open meetings
Correct.
before that grant went in.
Yep.
To
I
show
remember
that
I
we
just
were
don't remember
putting
that there
it
was an
up.
expiration on that grant, like
Yeah.
that soon.
Yeah, your application has to be in by,
So application has to be in by March.
Whatever. It's 20
Yeah,
seconds.
22nd sounds right in that area.
Yep. And if we apply for that and say we're proposing a $200,000 expansion, it's a match funds grant.
Yep.
And then we end up saying, sorry, but after doing our proposal and things like that, we're not going to do that. That grant money goes back into the pool or something.
No.
So we're not locked into they don't cut us a check on April 1st for $100,000, correct?
I think you can deny the grant. I'll check into it. I think you can deny the grant. The only thing with doing that is always tougher to try to get back into the grant once you deny something.
Sure.
That's happened before with, something with the, was it that SRO officer?
Yeah.
Was under the grant and went, all of a sudden they turned down that grant and they couldn't get back to another grant on it. That's.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see anything that would really, just in my opinion, that would really put up a huge roadblock unless you came up with an overwhelming poll where everyone was just strongly against us. And it was like this secret society of community members
So
that just
that would-
hate the campground.
So what I do is give you about a month to get that poll put together. And I think you almost have to have it because that grant is a huge thing.
Yeah,
Yep.
it is a huge thing.
Well, if we don't get it, we don't do it.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but I mean, in deciding even whether, so do you just go ahead and apply for the grant and worry about that poll later kind of thing? Or
Honestly, I think it gives us a good pulse on what the community wants. I know that we're in a technology-driven age and,
Yep.
Apparently not. You put it all over and nobody's.
well, and that's another thing I wanted to say too. We could literally post a billboard in the middle of town and
Right.
people would still claim they didn't know. You're never going to reach everybody.
And that's the same thing with this poll. The people, you're not going to get a huge number of people voting.
No.
Correct. It's a lot like the school referendum. You're going to get the people who are against it. They're going to speak up right away. That's their platform to say, no, I don't want this. Same thing with the campground.
I look at it as being the beauty. I mean, was many opportunities for people to be on this park board. I got on this park board not just to stay, improve it. And granted, no matter what we're gonna hear some guff about the bathrooms we did up there, the money we spent. If you really dug into it, you're gonna find people in town that are not gonna be there. So that's where I'm getting at, is like, yeah, take their opinions and stuff. I mean, if we do this, then we better be ready for anything we do out here. We better do a poll.
Yeah.
Well,
It's like with the hockey rink and
that $40,000, we should have probably done a poll on that, right?
There's probably some people.
I mean, that's taxpayer
What in
money.
the world, how much you spend on, you know, that's what I'm getting at on this.
Sure.
That's what I looked at as these informational meetings. Yep, we're gonna take your input in it, blah, blah, blah. Like you said, people don't like change, but as we grow and you hear more people, we wouldn't even think about this if there wasn't a waiting list, you know, if it was just fine. But people want to come here and camp. Why not open it up to more people to do that?
And I think you guys heard their concerns when they first came in. I mean, you shrunk down the campground, you listened to what they were saying, you moved them away, you removed sites.
And here's another thing to remember. Last month when Charlie came in, he said, I'm here speaking for the whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
He asked them both direct, and they didn't give a quick answer at all.
Yeah.
They thought about it. So, and I think he was surprised at the answer too.
Yep.
You know,
Well, on top of the fact that if he really does have 100 people that are against it, there was
You can say it.
There was two people here. I mean,
You can say it.
John
but you
and
gotta-
Charlie were both openly against it, but we didn't have anybody else that was openly against it.
Well, Bryce
Bryce was
kind of
pretty
went back
neutral.
if
Yeah.
we could take care of the trespassing issue for me, he kind of.
Right, he's concerned about his
Right.
property, which, yeah,
It's a concern.
yeah.
And that's what we had these 3 meetings for, to take that on. So to me, it's like, we're gonna go forward with this, we go forward with it, and we address them issues. You know, that's what I look at as a 3 meetings of concern. You know, once she came to the meeting and found out, she was like, boy, we used to, you know, Dave and her didn't give an anscer on the.
What is their last
Correct.
name?
Kurtz?
He looks
Curtis.
familiar.
Curtis.
Dave and Mary Curtis.
What does he do?
He works at Mill Clinic.
Okay.
So that's the only thing that I look at, is like,
I can't, I mean,
taking this.
we would be pulling we'd be pulling everything we did.
Well,
But
right.
that's the other thing is, do we only do the poll for something that's 6 figures or higher? Like, you know, at one point, he's got a valid point. It's like, do you just leave it up to, 6 people who were voted in multiple years ago to decide how to spend $250,000, $500,000? I mean, at one point, obviously the park board's got a limited fund, so nobody really has that big of a concern saying, oh my gosh, they spent $500,000 on a campground.
And we are,
Where do you
when we're doing the pool is going to the.
Well, okay, so there have been plenty of hot topic discussions over the last 5 or so years through other boards. What have the other boards done with these hot topic discussions that maybe the people don't necessarily agree? Like with St. Paul Road, that was an extremely hot topic.
I
The
just
project didn't
That's why you
end.
guys are elected.
You went
officials.
through with the
You
project, but you
represent
just
the
changed it.
We changed it to adjust so that it didn't hit
Because you
everybody at
won't
the
always
high.
make everybody
Well,
happy.
Yeah, last year we did, or we're gonna do, I mean, the showers and the Smith, and that was close to $80,000.
Yeah.
Here now, we're doing $100,000.
But now do you take a poll when it's time to replace the whole road at the park because it has to be done? And all of a sudden you gotta put a $250,000 road in through the whole park and now we gotta pull it because it's in the park
And
and
remember,
it's taxpayer dollar? Or
kids
do
Kingdom
you,
was gonna have to be redone down
Yeah.
the road, that's just my opinion.
the trestle bridge and going
I
out
don't,
there?
I don't,
mean,
and I think we're taking all their opinions in this. I mean, we've changed things, and we're
Yep.
looking at already changing things from what they
Yep.
had said.
Yep.
We're talking about, do we put some arborvitaes up, but that's more of a fire hazard too, so you gotta look at that too. So, yeah, it's not like we're just blowing them off and we're not trying to sneak this through or anything. I think we've given, I don't know, that's I just get scared about these polls.
I'm with you, Fred.
I just.
Almost all of the answers are
To be against it because people don't usually take
If they're
time
for
if they're
something, they
for
don't
something.
respond.
Yep.
But I think that goes back to his request and his concern is the voice or the wants of a few versus the needs of many, so to speak. Then the data shows that out of, 4,000 community members, you had 40 upset people that live within 100 yards of that say no, and everybody else didn't even vote. So we as a elected committee are deciding to go forward with it, even though the vote was 40 against and 10 for, you know?
True, it's a risk,
we
it's a
still could-
risk you're willing to take, because
Right.
you'll have to explain it to the people that are,
Correct.
that say C.
Yep.
More people don't want it, but.
Unless you're campaigning for no.
Yep. Because I mean, trust me, the poll and the public opinion, it's already out there. Charlie was already on social media. You know, I had to do a little bit of refining for what was going on there, because if you get nothing but negative publicity on the social media, you're already just spawning more and more negative feedback. So if we get ahead of it and say, and to his point, just keep it very neutral, saying the expansion of the thing, just, you're not trying to stir the pot. You just want to know, like, where are people at? But I completely agree with Fred and Miranda that you're probably going to get, 100% of the people against it are going to vote. And you'll be lucky if 25% of the people for will vote.
Because I know if there's something that I don't like, I'll seek out something to make sure that somebody knows I don't like it.
I still like the idea
Versus-
of putting it on the water bill and saying, if you check yes or no, you get $1 off your water bill.
I don't have any room on my postcards to put that.
I'll vote 48 times if I can get $48 off my water bill.
You're gonna get 48 of the same water bill, then you have to pay them all.
So, what do you want to do?
We should at least look into what it would take to get that done and consult. Who did we say we had to consult? Rockney, Matt. Just ask Matt what he thinks. I mean, we're not binding by that poll.
No,
It's just-
but I guess I'll just ask him if he thinks it's a good idea.
We want to get a pulse. If he thinks it's a horrible idea, and I already.
Get that from him too.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
think,
Yep.
I mean, we don't have to do this, just think
Yep.
that's gonna stir more things up than it is gonna.
Yep.
Yep.
Otherwise, you guys have done everything the same way it's been done. You put it in the paper. It's been in the minutes. It's been on the council minutes as well as the park board minutes. So it's been there, multiple facets for them to look at it or see it. If they are that concerned with what's going on in this community, they would have seen it by now.
I gotta tell you another good example of that. Chris knows, but that kind of goes back to the sanitary district. Think of the money that could be possibly spent there. It's not really been, it's been public, but not really, because you're kind of in that in-between. You're in a waiting, kind of a game waiting for money. And I mean, that's kind of like us. I mean, that's why getting to that grant is so important. If we got time to squeeze a poll in, but we got to kind of commit to this grant if we're going to do it, or.
Could we do a poll also of just the community members that you sent the letters to? So I'm assuming that everybody back in that dead end
Yeah,
park
it was,
location?
we maybe sent out 10 letters.
Oh,
It was John Stee and that backside pretty much.
Yeah, like my home didn't,
And I don't even
didn't
think
get one.
Wayne Radke, across the streets there, I don't think they got one. It was just.
I would,
the direct.
I would literally like to see everybody from Mike Klug all the way back in there give the opinion of what they think about expanding that, just to see what it is, just for that immediate neighborhood. It would be very curious, like Mike had pointed out, what if you went door to door with the little GPS thing and said, yes, just a quick little, hey, are you for or against the campground park?
Can I just want
I'm
to
very
make,
curious.
I just want to make a really
What
funny
would happen?
comment that I've been holding in my head. So we've lived there since 2013. And the first summer that we spent in that house, so it would have been the summer of 2014, I remember sitting out front at my house with my husband, and we both just looked at each other and we're like, this is so awesome back here. It feels like a little campground. So I'm just kind of laughing to myself because I'm like, that's what I loved about the
Get your
neighborhood, is it
walking
feels like a
shoes.
campground.
Get your walking shoes on tomorrow and get your little clicker out.
Yep.
Are you guys gonna pay for my broken nose when I get the door slammed in my face?
Just stay away from these
Yep.
Maybe the park board's got to take some areas.
Right.
You're gonna get a different answer face to face than you are.
Yeah.
On the.
Yep. And that's what I thought was interesting when he tried to get a no answer out of Miss Curtis, because she was very hesitant to go one way or the
Well,
other.
I thought what was very funny is he wanted a lot of say into that poll, how that was written.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought that was kind of.
I was kind of like, I don't think that's.
I
No,
thought that
that's for
was
the park board to decide.
Right.
Yep.
I didn't want to come out and say that and start something
No.
up, but it's like,
But if he wants to see it, I will happily share it.
I didn't
show what's going in there.
I didn't want to stir the pot either, but I was going to, if it got too much, is point out to the fact that in 1978, when we built our house, which literally borders against the shelter, where every graduation party, whatever, nobody wants that in their backyard, but guess what? We bought that house and we still have no problem with that thing literally being as close as the neighbor next door. And that can be rented out to anybody in the public who puts down a deposit and goes there. So I grew up in that house. I spent more than 20 years in that house, and we have no problem with that.
And now when you look back there, you're gonna see a structure blocking it out there. You know what I mean? So
I remember when they used to have big red telephone poles. Remember painting those?
Yep.
Jamie Jamsey going through and painting every one of those. They were along there because that guy came and drove his car up into our backyard and said, this is still my farm. This is my place. You guys got to go. You got to get out of here. So, yeah. So anyway, I think we beat the campground into the ground.
Let's do the other fun stuff we have.
Yeah.
Which is not much.
All right, priority list project update.
So I have one update on there based on the campground discussion. Let's change the verbiage on there that says more permanent campsites to more seasonal campsites.
I like it.
Because it's not permanent.
And I'm glad that you clarified that because I think that was a good way of putting that, was changing that verbiage around for people.
Correct.
Hey, Miranda, can I share my screen?
Yes. Oh, you're muted.
Oh, looky there.
So the high ground would be over here?
Yep.
Okay. But otherwise it doesn't change much in that brown contour there? That's your step up.
Right, and I think that's where Jesse got his, because that's right kind of where you see that red dotted line on his map too.
Exactly.
Yep, it goes right down the center of the road there.
There you go. Just a little reference. I could take a screenshot and email that to anybody.
Yep. Did he get these in his packet? Did Mike get these in his packet?
Yes,
Yep.
it's in the attachment that was sent.
And I think that other map I sent out had more of that detail in there than what Jesse has on here too.
Could be.
You guys got that I forwarded out, didn't I?
It might be. I didn't open up all of that. Yep. I like the email because it reminds me I have something to do on Monday, but I didn't really read it all.
All my hard work.
I pointed out a couple errors.
Yes, you did. So don't say you don't read it. You did read it.
With this though, are you done, Mike, there? You just went, okay. On the priority list, we got a price from Creative Country, meaning it got delayed a year to do.
So I just got this today from Aaron.
Yep.
And so we've talked about this. We were originally had them slated to do it, right? Correct, Fred? And then they couldn't get in this fall. It got too late. So then we were going to go to a wood footing. And I don't think that's really our best option anyway. There were some other people who kind of wanted to stay away from the wood footing. But he finally came back with a price on this.
So this was, the price was kind of already in the project, but it's a little bit more now than it's been a year away. So I think we got to approve this. I mean, we got the whole
looks.
What are we estimating that
Sure.
project to cost? No.
It's not on here?
Mm-mm.
No,
I don't think we have the full price.
We don't?
right.
And we'd have to look back quite a ways.
That would be my question is what did it go up?
Right.
Was the original wood foundation 4,000 and now it's going up to 13,000? Oh,
The original wasn't.
gotcha.
They
We
just
were gonna-
updated their
Yep.
Another
initial
estimate
quote.
tries to get at last fall, so we thought,
Yep.
well, maybe I can get a contract there.
To do it in wood.
And we
The
couldn't
original
get,
was spent.
and we couldn't get that done either, the
Yep.
wood one last fall, so we just couldn't get anybody to do it.
Right.
When I talked to Jake, I told him I'd like to be on the first, if you guys want to go through it this way, I want to be first on the list this spring because I want to get that, we've got the footing, we got it all dug ready to go. I want to get that closed up and backfilled at least because it's going to get busy
Correct.
using that, so.
Yep. My only question, I guess, would be how much did it actually go up? Obviously, everything is skyrocketing now. Whatever you quoted 6 months ago is double what it is right now.
Yeah, I know when I got the price of the wood, when we got the price, that was at the high end
Sure.
back last year.
But the original quote was cement and comparable to whatever this is. We didn't increase anything. This is a new updated quote with the same exact stuff.
Same exact.
Yep.
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's still the same
Right.
footing and everything. Flat work. Yeah, it's just a different price.
Right.
I don't think the scope
Correct.
of work has changed.
Right. Because had we requoted our pickleball cement, it's probably 50% higher than it was when we had it put in last year too. So whatever this quote was, I'm assuming was much lower than it is currently.
So if we accept this quote though, but he said the quote price is good for only 30 days.
Well, if I call them and accept it, you might have a little fluctuation just in the cement price, not labor costs. It's gonna lock you into labor costs, not cement
Okay.
prices.
I just want.
And I can't imagine that cement, what he's got figured going forward's gotta be cement prices for this upcoming year anyways.
Right. No, knowing these guys, if that's what they're bidding us, we just got to do.
Yeah.
Correct.
But I think if we signed it now, we could lock into that price.
Lock into that
Yep.
price and. get it-
I think that's what
get
it's
them in
saying,
there
quote,
early.
30 days from bid, and then get them in early to
Yep.
get it done as soon as we get that
Correct.
ground thawed out.
Yep.
So do we need a motion on that?
I think we should on this.
But we don't know what the old bid was.
Did you
We just-
get, Kayla, did you get that? All of that, that's on the concrete prices for that bathroom? I hope she can.
Yeah, she's giving you a
Yep.
thumbs up.
Yep, she's got it. I guess my only reservation is I don't know what the previous quote was, so I don't know what I'm approving here for 13. If it was 9,000 and it goes up to 13,000, but if it was, again, $2,000, now it's going up to 13,000. Right. Right.
First one.
You said you had that price at one time, and it was, I thought you told me earlier, was it 9,400 or something?
Yeah, I was thinking right around 10.
Yep, because that would be my guess, just based off of all the other quotes I've seen, is things have gone up about 30-40%. So 40% would put that right in with what everything else is going currently. So based on that, if it's only gone up that 30-40%, then I would definitely, I make a motion to approve the existing quote, the updated quote.
And Kayla or Mike, you need a second if you were in favor.
They're here for us, aren't
I'll second.
they? Okay. The motion is second, motion and a second, accept the concrete price on the new bathhouse. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, I guess. I think we're gonna do it, right?
It's tough with the delay.
Okay, so that was, anything else on the priority list? Because now, heard a little talk on like the dugouts and stuff. Are we kind of taking care of a lot of that? I mean, we talked way back on fundraisers or whatever.
Yep.
Where are we at on all that?
So this is going back to getting the same updated pricing on where we were at, because at that time too, I mean, that's back to the prices we had there. So now we're trying to get as many local contractors in to do what we can, or volunteers, where if we literally pay for the materials, we might be able to get enough volunteers to come in and finish flat work concrete and then tip up just some, 4x4 posts for this type of thing. So we need updated pricing on that. So that's on myself, Mike's help, whomever, to get, we need updated pricing.
So there's 40,000 here for dugouts. So is this 40,000 that's coming out of the park board then? Or this is what you're estimating?
Correct. So that's what the original request that I had made is, will the park board provide that, or are they looking for some local fundraising to try and match funds, or what are they doing there? My request was originally, will the park board foot the bill for that, like they have the bathhouse, the shelter, everything else that's out there? Will they put in, $10,000 per dugout to do that?
And did you get a clear answer on that?
Nope, we never got a clear answer, because the kicker is Brian was going to go back in and ask and see what we had for funds, and then he came back in and said, well, based on what we have, we should see how much we can fundraise for. And the fundraising was pretty much a wash as to what it cost to throw the fundraiser. Yep.
So this 40,000 is just for the dugouts, that's not for anything else out there?
That was, the estimate at the time was for $10,000 per dugout to put in a flat slab, and then just the enclosure there with a new updated bench that was there. Yep. And then we were going to put chain link fence around the dugout. Yep.
So yeah, so most of that, I mean.
Right.
We're not going to do the work. You're kind of hoping this comes out of the park board.
Correct. Absolutely.
Oh, did you get a hold of anybody repairing the skateboard park?
Yeah. I'll have to reach back out to Jim and see. I find out if there's just anybody else who does that work now. Just based on what he was telling me, the guy was sick, but he didn't know if he had somebody replacement coming in there. And that guy was still supposed to have gotten a hold of me, but he never did, so.
Must be some other companies out there though, right?
Well, I would think
I'll
so.
make a couple calls and I'll give them your number, or
Sure.
your email.
Okay.
But I'll make
We're
some
gonna want to
calls.
get that,
Yeah.
for sure. Right
In the
away,
spring, yeah.
Yep.
And then how's the flooding going in the Smith?
Good, good. Yeah, it's amazing how quick it freezes when it's that cold.
Is there a ladder under it?
No, we did not put one in this year.
You were able to keep it in?
But I think because of just the fluctuation in temperature, I think we might go back to putting just underneath the boards, not even wrapping it up on the inside.
Okay.
But that way, when we get this freeze thaw, we don't lose so much of that
Okay.
surface water, because that's the biggest thing is once it gets warm and then the concrete gets down there, then we have to wait till it
So
cools
like
down.
tomorrow, it's gonna be 40 degrees.
Yeah, it's
again.
gonna be
That's tough
nasty,
on
so
them.
we might have to close it. The last time we did not close it because we saw the negative 22 degrees coming, then we were able to freeze it back up in a couple of days, but knowing
Kind
that.
of a long spell here.
Yeah, we got 30s and upper 20s, we might have to close it on the warm days, because otherwise it'll just be shot for the rest of the season, so.
Yep.
Somebody asked me how much.
We only had 1 3/4 inch at the max
Okay.
that whole time. So that's all, that's all we had to do with that nice Zamboni. We didn't have to sit and put 8 to 12 inches of water in there and.
And then that's what's there now, about 2 inches of ice.
Right now, it's probably about 1.5 inches.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not,
Yep.
it's not a tremendous amount.
Excellent, excellent.
Yep. And the fire department still posts that on their Facebook page when it's
Yeah,
open, when it's
so
closed.
we'll put
So
that
just
on there,
plaster that if
and
it's closed.
We did slide the sign underneath the warming house, so we'll pull the sign back out. It says,
Yep.
please stay off the
Yep.
rink, and then I'll pull the goals again. that seems to help when the kids know the goals aren't in there, they stay away.
Yep, that's super helpful from the people that are coming from out of town. I know that from
Yeah.
experience, that they get all the way there and it's closed. If it goes on to the social media thing, then they know right away that
Yeah,
it's not.
there's a couple group from Hastings I know that comes down and
Yep,
skates.
even the
with
Mazeppa
around
kids that
here.
come up to be a part of the Zimbrota rink, because the Mazeppa rink doesn't have goals, doesn't have boards, doesn't have stuff. So they'll drive to Zimbrota to have a warming house, to have a hockey net, and then they get all the way up here and the rink is closed or something.
Yeah, if you could let me know.
Yep.
'Cause I don't always catch the fire department posts to share it.
Or the ice rink,
Yep.
yeah.
Or-
I always
or yeah,
share
the-
the-
I usually just share it on the ice rink, not
Gotcha.
necessarily
Yep.
so much the fire department.
Gotcha, because I would
Yeah,
share
the
it on the
ice
city page, but I don't always notice
Yeah.
it.
Yep, the ice rink one I see right away and I share it.
I just want to make a comment too, going back to the skate park. There was someone that put a post out on Town Talk about a month ago, looking for people that might be interested in forming a group again that could help raise funds. Yep.
Sure.
And it looks like he had about a half dozen people that responded that seemed interested. So I don't know if you guys,
We should
if you
reach
want
out
us to reach out to
We should
them.
reach out to that
Everybody
group.
knows where we.
Yeah, we should reach
we're
out to
willing
that
put some
group.
money into it to fix it up. and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
To take all the help we can get on something like that.
Yep.
So I just remember seeing that a month ago and I thought, oh, I never went back and looked to see what the,
Well, and if they're
Right.
willing to raise some funds too, I mean, I'm all for that.
right.
Correct. I might do something very similar for the dugouts here, within the next month or so before spring really kicks in, before people start getting busy, saying, hey, as soon as frost is out, we'd like to put in some cement. We're looking for those volunteers that
Sure.
names were lost during the fundraiser type kind of thing.
And
And just like you said, a quick line is if you're willing to donate towards the material, there's probably some guys out there that, well, I can't come and help, but I sure like to.
Absolutely.
Maybe same with the skateboard park,
Yeah,
Not that
and
we
if it's,
do a
if it's okay,
huge fundraiser, but just a one-line thing.
if it's okay with you, I might reach out to him and tell him to call you and
Yep.
talk to you, just to see what kind of, what he has in mind.
That'd be awesome.
And the park itself, I talked to Brian about this, and it's probably a Brian question, but isn't there a 501c3 that you can donate
That I
through?
don't know, probably, but I don't know
I think
that.
there is, because I remember asking when we were doing the fundraiser way back when, like if people wanted to make actual donations, could it be written off towards taxes and different things?
Yeah,
Because it's
there's
a
probably,
nonprofit thing.
there's
I'll reach
probably
out to Brian.
something, yeah.
I'll reach out to Brian on that.
Or Kim.
Yep.
You could even shoot a message directly to Kim.
Sure. Yep. Which does circle back to, we were all going to do some training, some finance 101 where we were
Did you
going to
guys
go
get
through
the
the budget.
emails? Did you guys
I
get the
did
emails
mine
to sign
already.
up? It would have came from, maybe what I'll do is I'll forward my email that I received, because it would have came from Lessonly is the name of the, so mine came December 2nd, so I'll forward it out to all of you, and you should be able, I don't think it's specific to me, you should be able to click the link and go
Mine
forward
probably
with
went
it.
straight into a spam folder. I still got an old Hotmail account.
I
so-
think that happened maybe to some of the other boards too. Yeah, I think that happened to some people on the other boards too, so I'll forward that out to you guys.
That
And
would be
it
great.
should go to your regular email if it comes from me, so.
That'd be awesome.
Okay.
I'll do it right
Anything
now.
else on that project update?
Cool.
Land appraisal request, I think you all got the letter there. Sounds like it's in there.
In their court.
Yep, so we don't have much to discuss there.
And it sounded like it wasn't a no from them. It sounded decently positive.
Yep.
Okay. And we feel zip through new business real fast here.
Because there is none.
There is none. Okay, that's all we've got as far as I know. And would entertain a
Motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion
I'll second.
and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Yep.
Paula was just listening.
Paula, you're just listening, right?
She's off.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Keep on challenging us to see if we can set a record for
Yeah,
longest
for-
park.